A single father opens his door at midnight, and the soaked woman standing on his steps is about to tear his entire life apart. No ID, no past, nowhere to go. But when men in black suits start circling his quiet neighborhood, Liam Carter realizes the girl he took in isn't just hiding. She's being hunted by people who can crush him with a single phone call. Watch to the end to see what he chooses. Smash that like button and drop the city you're watching from in the comments so I know how far this story has traveled. The rain had been falling since 4 that afternoon. The kind of rain that didn't so much fall as settle, soaking into brick and coat and bone until the whole city of Harlan's End felt like it was sinking an inch at a time. Liam Carter stood at the stove in his narrow kitchen on the 3rd floor of a walk-up on Delford Avenue, stirring a pot of macaroni with one hand and holding a broken green-colored pencil out toward his daughter with the other. "Daddy? The green one's broken again." "I know, Bug. Here, use this one till I can sharpen it. But I need the dark green for the tree. Then draw a lighter tree." 6-year-old Noah looked up at him from the linoleum floor, her face so serious it almost hurt to see. She had her mother's mouth, something Liam had stopped being able to pretend he didn't notice. She also had a habit of tilting her head the way a small animal does when it's trying to figure out whether you're a threat or a meal. "Trees aren't light green, Daddy. They're dark green, except in fall. And it's not fall." "Fine. We'll sharpen it after dinner. Deal?" "Deal." She went back to her coloring on the kitchen floor, and Liam turned back to the pot. He stirred in the packet of orange cheese dust. It wasn't dinner so much as it was a holding pattern. He'd worked a double at the loading dock. He'd picked Noah up from Mrs. Ortega downstairs at 7:30, and his back was screaming at him in a way that felt less like a warning and more like a final notice. He was 32 years old, and he moved like 45. He hadn't always. There had been a version of Liam that played pickup basketball twice a week, that ran the river trail on Sundays, that stayed up till 2 on Friday nights arguing about movies with his brother. That man had lived in a different city with a different woman, in a house with a real kitchen and a real yard and a door you didn't have to shoulder to close. That man was dead. Liam had buried him 2.5 years ago and moved with his daughter to Harlan's End, where nobody knew him and where the rent was cheap enough that he could almost keep the lights on if he worked 60 hours a week. He'd made peace with that arithmetic. That was the thing people didn't understand about grief, he thought. They thought it was loud. They thought it was tears and wailing and throwing things. But grief, the kind that stuck, was arithmetic. It was waking up at 5:15 and doing the math on what you could afford. It was calculating how many minutes you could sit with your kid before you had to start thinking about tomorrow's shift. He spooned macaroni into 2 plastic bowls. The blue one was Noah's. He set them on the small table by the window and pulled her chair out. "Come on, Bug. Dinner." She climbed up, tucked her feet under herself, and picked up her fork. She was still holding the broken pencil in her other hand. "You gotta put the pencil down to eat, Noah." "I'm not hungry yet." "You gotta eat anyway." "Why?" "Because I said so." "That's not a reason." "That is absolutely a reason. Eat." She ate, sulking theatrically, her fork scraping the bowl like she was filing a grievance with the union. Liam ate standing up by the counter because sitting down felt like surrender. Outside, the rain kept coming. The window was streaked in gray. He could hear the neighbor above them, Mr. Fenn, a big man with a limp and a worse cough, moving around. A pipe groaned somewhere in the walls. "Daddy." "Yeah." "What's a widower?" Liam's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "Where'd you hear that word?" Mrs. Ortega said it to the mail guy. She said, "That man upstairs is a widower, and I heard her. What's it mean?" He set the fork down. He set it down carefully, like it might break something. "It means a man whose wife died." "Oh." She chewed her macaroni. He waited. He had learned with her to wait. "Is that what you are?" "Yeah, Bug." "Okay." That was it. She went back to eating. He tried to swallow and found he couldn't for a second. So he turned to the sink and ran the water and pretended to rinse something. The tap sputtered brown for a moment, then cleared. When he turned back, she was drawing again with her left hand while her right hand operated the fork, which was something he hadn't realized she could do. "Eat with both hands, kiddo." "Why?" "Because the drawing isn't going anywhere and the food's getting cold." "You said I had to eat. You didn't say I had to stop drawing." "I'm saying it now. New rule. Rules can't be new." Where'd you get that idea? From logic. He laughed. He actually laughed, and the laugh caught him off guard. And she looked up and smiled, pleased with herself, and for a second the apartment didn't feel so small. They finished dinner. He washed the 2 bowls in the pot. She did her reading workbook at the table, 1 page, the way they'd agreed. She read out loud, stumbling over the word quarrel, and he didn't correct her because correcting her made her shut down. She figured it out eventually. Then it was bath and pajamas with the astronaut cats on them, and 2 chapters of a book about a rabbit who ran a detective agency. She was asleep by 8:40. He stood in her doorway for a minute watching her, which was a thing he did sometimes and wasn't proud of because he knew it was the kind of thing that would worry a therapist. He wasn't seeing a therapist. He hadn't seen a therapist since the 2nd month after the funeral, when the grief counselor at the hospital had told him he needed to let himself feel the full weight, and he'd looked at her across the desk and thought, "Lady, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling all of it. I just don't have time for it to be the whole content of my life. I have a 4-year-old who needs her teeth brushed." He'd stopped going. He eased her door closed until it clicked. He went back to the kitchen and poured himself a mug of coffee because he still had laundry in the basement and a stack of bills to look at. He sat down at the table. The rain hadn't let up. It ticked against the fire escape. He was halfway through the Con Ed bill. Electric up again. Some kind of delivery charge he didn't understand. When the buzzer rang. The buzzer didn't ring, not at his apartment, not at 9 at night. The mail came in the afternoon. His brother didn't visit. Nobody visited. He froze. He looked at the clock on the microwave. 9:11 p.m. It rang again. 2 short bursts this time, like whoever was pushing it wasn't sure if it worked. He got up. He crossed to the intercom by the door, a cheap plastic thing that usually only made static. He pressed the button. "Who is it?" A pause. Then a voice, faint, through the rain and the broken speaker. "I'm sorry. Is this 3B? Yeah. Can I come up, please? Who are you?" "You don't know me. I'm sorry. Please." Liam let go of the button. He stood in the little square of his entryway and tried to think. A woman's voice. Young. The voice was shaking, and he couldn't tell if it was cold or fear, and it occurred to him that he didn't actually know the difference from 3 stories up through a plastic box. He thought about Noah asleep in the next room. He thought about what he'd tell his brother tomorrow if something happened tonight. He pressed the button again. "Who gave you this address?" "Nobody. I'm sorry. I knocked on other doors. Nobody opened. I saw the light. I'm sorry." There was something in the way she said "I'm sorry" that made him tired. It wasn't pleading. It wasn't trying to manipulate him. It was the voice of someone who had already accepted that the answer was no and was apologizing for having asked at all. He shouldn't. He knew he shouldn't. He had a daughter. He had a routine. He had a very specific rule, forged in 2.5 years of solo parenting, which was that strangers did not come up into his home. He pressed the buzzer to unlock the downstairs door. "3rd floor," he said. "On the left." He let go of the button. He stood in the entryway and didn't move for a second. And then he moved fast, because he had maybe 90 seconds before she got up there. He grabbed his phone off the counter and put it in his pocket. He opened the drawer under the microwave where he kept the old paring knife with the loose handle, and he looked at it for a second, and then he closed the drawer. He wasn't going to pull a knife on a woman who'd said please 3 times. He unlocked the door. He didn't open it. He stood back from it, arms crossed, waiting. Footsteps on the stairs, slow, heavy in the way wet clothes are heavy. A knock. 2 knuckles, not a fist. "It's open," he said. The door pushed in, and she came with it. She was maybe 23 and 24, small, not short, but thin in the way people are thin when they haven't been eating right, and she was soaked through. Her dark hair was stuck to her forehead and her neck. She wore a khaki trench coat that had maybe once been expensive and a pair of jeans so wet they looked black. No umbrella, no purse. She had one hand clutching the other one at her sternum, and her shoes, low canvas sneakers, squelched when she stepped onto his mat. She looked at him. She had the kind of eyes that people write about in books and get wrong. Not beautiful exactly. Tired. Enormously tired. The whites were pink at the edges. "Thank you," she said. "Don't thank me yet." She almost smiled. Almost. It didn't make it. "Can I she started, and he saw her shoulders shaking, and he realized she wasn't asking for anything. She was trying to stand up. Sit down, he said, and he pointed at the chair by the table. There, before you fall down. She sat. She sat the way someone sits when they've been holding themselves up on willpower alone, and the willpower has just clocked out. She put her hands flat on the table, palms down, and stared at them. He went to the hall closet. He pulled out a towel, a clean one, from the top of the stack, and a hoodie of his that he hadn't worn since last winter. He put both on the table in front of her. Dry your hair, he said, and put that on. Bathroom's through there if you want to change out of the jeans. I've got... Hold on. He went into his bedroom. He dug through the bottom drawer of his dresser. He found a pair of drawstring sweatpants, gray, worn thin at the knees. They'd be huge on her. He didn't care. He brought them out and put them on top of the hoodie. Change, he said. I'll make coffee. I can't. You can. Bathroom. Go. She looked up at him. There was a full second, where she studied his face, and he had the distinct sensation of being evaluated, not for attraction, for threat. She was doing the math on him the way he'd done the math on the knife drawer. Whatever she decided, she stood up. She gathered the clothes against her chest. Thank you. Bathroom, he said. Through there. She went. The door clicked shut. He heard the fan go on. She'd pulled the cord, and then the sound of wet denim hitting tile. He put a kettle on. He didn't have real coffee this late. He had instant, a jar of the dark, cheap stuff he kept for overnight shifts. He got out 2 mugs. Then he put one back and got out a different one, because the second one said, World's Okayest Dad on the side, and he didn't want to explain it. His hands were steady. That surprised him. His head wasn't steady, but his hands were. He went to Noah's room. He eased the door open a 1/4 inch. She was still asleep, on her back, one arm flung over her head. Her mouth was open. She looked so small it made his chest feel tight, which was a thing that happened to him sometimes, and which he had learned to ignore. He closed the door. The bathroom door opened. The woman came out. She was swimming in his hoodie and his sweats. She had the drawstring knotted tight at her waist and had rolled the cuffs twice. Her hair was a darker brown now, wet and towel-combed, falling past her shoulders. Without the wet coat clinging to her, she looked even smaller. She carried her wet clothes in a bundle in front of her and didn't seem to know what to do with them. Give them here, he said. You don't have to. Give them here. She handed them over. He took them into the bathroom, wrung them out over the tub, came back out, and draped them over the radiator in the kitchen. The radiator clanked. Steam began to rise almost immediately. He poured hot water into both mugs, stirred the instant coffee in, and set one in front of her. He sat down across the table from her. The light over the table was a bare bulb in a cheap fixture, and it wasn't flattering. It made her look worse, not better. The dark circles under her eyes looked bruised. Drink, he said. She wrapped her hands around the mug. Her fingers were long and thin, and they were trembling just a little, just enough. I'm Liam. Arya. Arya what? She didn't answer. She looked down into the coffee. Okay, he said. Arya, I'm not going to ask you again. She looked up. Arya Bennett. He didn't know why, but he knew instantly that Bennett was a lie. Not the Arya part, the Bennett part. She'd said it a 1/4 second too fast. He let it go. How'd you end up at my door, Arya Bennett? She took a breath. She took a sip of the coffee. She winced, too hot, and set it down. I got off a bus, she said, at 14th, an hour ago, maybe 2. I'm not sure. I walked until... She gestured vaguely toward the window. Until I couldn't anymore. Where were you trying to go? Anywhere. Anywhere. I didn't have a destination. People don't get on a bus to anywhere. Buses have numbers. She looked at him with those exhausted eyes. I got on the bus that was leaving when I needed one to be leaving. He studied her. He'd worked in enough places and around enough kinds of people to know a few things about lies. Most lies came with too many details. The good lies were simple and smooth. This wasn't that. This was something different. She wasn't trying to sell him a story. She was trying to tell him as little as possible without insulting him. You running from somebody. Her hand tightened around the mug. I don't want to bring trouble to you, if that's what you're asking. I'll leave in the morning. I couldn't be outside tonight. That's not what I asked. I know. He waited. Yes, she said finally. I'm running from somebody. Who? I can't tell you. It's safer for you if I don't. He almost laughed. He didn't, but the impulse was there. Safer for you if I don't was a line from a movie. It was a line people said when they didn't want to say anything real. And yet the way she said it didn't sound like a movie. It sounded like she meant it. Are they going to come here? No, they don't know where I am. I made sure. How sure? Very sure. He looked at her for a long time. The radiator clanked. The rain kept coming. My daughter is asleep in the next room, he said. Her eyes closed. He saw the moment it hit her. That this was what she'd walked into. That there was a child. He watched her absorb it. When she opened her eyes again, something in them had changed. Hardened, maybe. Or sharpened. I'll leave now, she said, and started to stand. I'm sorry. I should have. Sit down. I can't. Sit down, Arya, please. She sat, slowly. You're not going back out there at 10 at night in my clothes, he said. You can sleep on the couch. You can have coffee. You can have whatever's in the fridge, which isn't much. In the morning, we'll figure out what happens next. That's it. That's the deal. Why? What? Why are you doing this? He didn't have an answer for her. He had a lot of answers, and none of them were clean. Because his mother had raised him a certain way. Because he remembered standing under an awning in a city he didn't live in 5 years ago, after a fight with his wife, and an old man had handed him a cup of tea without saying a word, and it had saved something in him he hadn't known was breaking. Because Noah was 6, and he wanted to be able to tell her, later, that when somebody had knocked on their door in the rain, they'd opened it. What he said was, I've got an extra blanket. She didn't say anything for a while. Thank you. Drink your coffee, he said. I'm going to go get the blanket. He went to the hall closet. He pulled down the blanket, a ratty green thing his brother had sent when Noah was born, meant for a baby, long since grown past its purpose, and a flat pillow. When he came back into the kitchen, she was standing by the window, one hand on the sill, looking out. She'd moved quietly. He hadn't heard her stand up. Is this side street the only way in? She said. He blinked. What? Is there another entrance to the building? There's a back door from the laundry room to the alley. Why? Just asking. She turned from the window and gave him a small, apologetic smile. Habit. Uh-huh. He set the blanket and pillow on the end of the couch. It was a small couch, a love seat really, faded blue with one cushion sunken worse than the other. You're going to be cramped, he said. I'll be fine. It's warm. It's dry. Bathroom, if you need it. I keep Noah's nightlight on in the hall. Don't let it freak you out. Noah, that's your daughter. Yeah. Pretty name. Her mom picked it. He hadn't meant to say it. It slipped out the way those things sometimes did when he was tired. He felt the words hang in the air, and he almost reached up to pull them back. Arya didn't look at him. She was smart enough not to. I won't wake her, she said. Good. He got her a clean glass of water. He set it on the little side table next to the couch. He showed her the lamp switch. He told her there was aspirin in the cabinet over the sink if her head hurt, because her head looked like it hurt. She nodded to everything. Liam. Yeah. If somebody knocks on the door tonight, nobody's knocking on the door tonight. If they do, don't open it. He looked at her. I'll figure it out, he said. Just don't open it, please. Okay. She sat down on the edge of the couch. She put her hands in her lap, on top of each other, like she didn't know where else to put them. He saw then, for the first time, how young she was underneath the tired. Not younger than he'd thought, still 23, 24, but young in a different way. She looked like someone who had never been allowed to sit on a couch without being told to. Good night, Arya. Good night. He went to his room. He closed the door. He stood in the dark for a minute, and then he walked across the room and opened his sock drawer and took out the small leather folder that had his emergency cash in it, and his and Noah's passports and the spare key to his brother's place in Pittsburgh, which he'd never once used. He looked at it. He put it back. He didn't know why he'd checked on it, except that some part of his brain had wanted to know it was still there. He got into bed with his phone. He set an alarm for 5. He lay in the dark, listening. Every time the building settled, he cataloged it. The pipe groan, the fen cough, the hum of the fridge 2 rooms away. Around 11:30 he heard her. She wasn't crying, not really. It was the sound you make when you're trying very hard not to cry, and you've been doing it so long you've started to lose. Small and ragged and smothered, like she had a hand over her mouth. It went on for maybe 2 minutes, then it stopped. He lay there a long time after that, staring at the ceiling. He thought about his wife. He thought about the morning 3 years ago when he'd come home from a trip and she hadn't been breathing when he opened their bedroom door, and how the thing he remembered most, the thing that had never stopped replaying, wasn't the ambulance or the noise or the horrible, efficient hands of the paramedics. It was the way the bedroom had looked exactly the same as when he'd left it, because the world didn't change its furniture for you just because you were losing everything. He thought about the sound of Arya trying not to cry. He fell asleep eventually, not because he'd made peace with anything, because his body gave out. At 4:51, his alarm hadn't gone off yet when he opened his eyes. Something had woken him. He lay still, listening. The apartment was quiet. The rain had stopped, though he could still hear drips from the fire escape. Then he heard it again. A soft sound. Someone moving in the kitchen. He got up. He pulled on a t-shirt over his sleep pants. He opened his door quietly. She was in the kitchen. She wasn't running. She wasn't taking anything. She was standing at the sink, in his hoodie and his sweats, washing her coffee mug from last night. She had the faucet on low. The soap bottle was on the counter. She'd already washed the 2 bowls from dinner and the pot from the macaroni. She was drying the mug now with a dish towel she must have found in the drawer by the fridge, and she was doing it with the kind of slow, careful attention a person pays to a thing when they're using it to keep themselves from falling apart. He watched her for a second. She didn't see him. He'd intended to clear his throat and say something. Instead, he went back into his room. He sat on the edge of his bed. He put his face in his hands for a minute. He wasn't sure what was happening to him, except that he recognized it, because it had happened before, years ago, and it had not ended well. When he came out 10 minutes later, showered, in his work shirt, she had made coffee. Actual coffee, somehow. She'd found the old drip maker he kept in the cupboard above the fridge, the one he hadn't used in months because instant was faster. The kitchen smelled good. She was sitting at the table with her hands around a mug, staring at the stain on the table where he'd spilled something red a year ago and never quite gotten out. "Morning." She looked up. "I hope it's okay. I found the coffee in the... It's okay. I was going to leave before you woke up," she said. "I figured. And then She looked down. "I didn't know where to go. And I thought, at least if I'm here when you wake up, I could say thank you properly. And I could leave in the daylight. I'm sorry, I know that's not the deal." He got a mug. He poured himself coffee. He sat down across from her. Mrs. Ortega took Noah at 7:30 on weekdays. He didn't have to wake her for 40 minutes yet. "Arya." "Yeah." "Where are you going?" "I don't know." "You have money." "Some." "How much?" She hesitated. $62. He closed his eyes. "You have somewhere to sleep tonight." "I'll find something." "At $62. I've done it before." He opened his eyes. He looked at her. She looked back. Her hair was dry now. It was longer than he'd thought, past her shoulders. She had freckles, a few, across the bridge of her nose, that he hadn't seen last night under the kitchen light. There was a small scar on her left eyebrow, a white line maybe an inch long. She looked exhausted still, but the kind of exhausted that a night's sleep hadn't touched. A deeper layer, older. "I work doubles a lot," he said. "I leave at 6:30. My daughter goes to the woman downstairs at 7:30 and to school at 8:15. She comes home at 2:45 and stays with the downstairs woman till I get home, which is anywhere from 7 to midnight depending on the shift. The couch is free during the day. Nobody comes in here during the day." She stared at him. "Liam, I'm not offering you a life," he said. "I'm offering you 3 days. You stay on the couch. You don't answer the door. You don't answer the phone. You don't go out unless I'm with you. In 3 days, you tell me where you're going, or you figure it out, and I drive you to the bus station, and I put you on whatever bus you want, and I never see you again." "Why?" "Because you're going to die out there at $62. "No," she said. "Why are you doing this?" He picked up his coffee. He took a long drink. The coffee was very good. He hadn't had coffee that good in a year. Because I don't want to be the guy who didn't, he said. She looked at him for a long moment. He couldn't read her face. Then she nodded once, small, and looked back down at her mug. 3 days, she said. 3 days. Okay. He stood up. He rinsed his mug. He put on his jacket. He paused at the door with his hand on the knob. Arya. Yeah. If anything happens today, anything, you take my daughter and you go out the back. Laundry room. Door opens into the alley. You cut left 2 blocks. There's a diner called Pappy's. You sit in a booth and you call this number. He dug a pen out of the junk drawer and wrote his brother's number on a corner of junk mail. He tore it off and put it on the table. You tell him Liam sent you. You tell him my daughter's name is Noah. He'll come. She looked at the number. She didn't touch it. Nothing's going to happen today, she said. Probably not. Probably not. Just in case. She reached out and put her hand on the scrap of paper. She slid it toward her. She didn't pick it up. Okay. Okay. He opened the door. He paused one more time. Thanks for the coffee. You're welcome. He closed the door behind him. He locked it from the outside with his key, which he always did. He stood on the landing for a second. He could hear the fen cough starting up above. He could hear a television somewhere. He went down the stairs, out onto Delford Avenue, into a morning that was gray but not raining anymore, and he walked 4 blocks to the subway in what he would later realize was the last ordinary morning of his life. He just didn't know it yet. 3 hours into his shift at the loading dock off Exmoor Street, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was Mrs. Ortega, who had never called him at work before in 2.5 years. He stepped away from the forklift and answered. Liam. Yeah. Is Noah okay? Noah is fine. Noah is with me. I am at the apartment. Her voice was low and careful, and he knew her well enough to know that when Mrs. Ortega got careful, something was wrong. There is a man here, at the building, asking questions. What kind of questions? About a woman, young, dark hair. He is very polite. He is too polite. He is wearing a suit. Liam's hand tightened around the phone. Where is he now? Downstairs, outside. He rang every buzzer, Liam, every one. He asked me, did I see this woman? He had a picture. Mrs. Ortega. I told him no. I told him I see nothing. But Liam, he is not the only one. There is another one. In a car, across the street. The forklift beeped behind him. Someone shouted his name. He didn't hear it. Is Noah with you right now? She is with me. We are in my apartment. Door is locked. Keep her there. Don't open the door. I'm coming home. Liam, what is this? He closed his eyes. He could see Arya sitting at his kitchen table at 5 a.m, her hands around a mug, saying, they don't know where I am. I made sure. I'll tell you when I get there, he said. He hung up. He stood there, phone in hand, on the edge of a loading dock in a gray morning, and for the first time in 2.5 years, he felt something that was not grief and not exhaustion. He felt afraid. And he felt, underneath the afraid, a thing he hadn't felt in even longer. A thing he didn't have a name for yet. He shoved the phone in his pocket. He turned and walked back toward the forklift, toward his jacket, toward the door. He had 40 minutes on the train home. He hoped it was enough. The train was packed with the late morning shift change, and Liam stood in the middle of the car holding a pole he hadn't needed to hold because he wasn't moving anyway, wedged between a woman with headphones and a guy in a painter's uniform who smelled like turpentine. He kept his phone in his hand. He kept checking it even though he knew Mrs. Ortega wouldn't call again unless something new happened, and he did not want something new to happen. 18 stops. He counted them down. Between stops, he ran through the layout of his apartment in his head. The front door, which had 1 deadbolt and 1 chain. The fire escape off the kitchen window, rusted at the hinges, which he'd never tested. The back exit through the laundry room that he'd told Arya about that morning. He tried to remember whether the laundry room door locked from the outside or from the inside. He thought it locked from the inside. He wasn't sure. At the Exmoor stop, a kid got on with a duffel bag that clinked when he set it down, and Liam almost snapped at him before he realized it was just bottles, somebody's empties on the way to the redemption center. Breathe, he told himself. Breathe and think. He thought. He thought about Arya at 5 a.m, washing a mug. He thought about her standing at his kitchen window asking about the side entrance. He thought about $62. He thought about how she had said, "I made sure," like a person who had done it 100 times before, and how that had been the first thing she'd said all night that he'd believed entirely. He got off at Delford 2 stops early and walked the extra 6 blocks. He didn't know why exactly, except that he wanted to come at the building from an angle, and he didn't want whoever was watching to see him come up the stairs of the station. He kept to the far side of the street. He put his hood up, which he never did, and tried to look like a guy heading somewhere else entirely. Half a block from his building, he slowed. There was a car across the street from his stoop, a black sedan with tinted windows, idling. Not a livery car. Not anything with a sticker on it. Just a clean, expensive-looking thing with somebody behind the wheel whose face he couldn't see. Exhaust pooled in a soft white cloud under the back bumper. It had been there long enough to heat the asphalt under it. He didn't stop walking. He walked right past it on the opposite sidewalk, eyes forward. He felt the driver see him and not see him. Felt the little flicker of attention land on him and move off because he didn't match whatever the driver was watching for. A working guy in a hoodie with a lunch bag slung over his shoulder wasn't the thing the driver had been told to watch for. He went around the block. He came up the alley behind the building. The laundry room door was propped open with a brick. Somebody had done laundry that morning and not bothered to kick the brick out, which had annoyed him every time it had happened before and which he was grateful for now. He slipped inside. He took the back stairs 2 at a time. Mrs. Ortega's door was on the 2nd floor. He didn't go to his own apartment first. He went to hers. He knocked twice, paused, knocked once more, which was the pattern they'd worked out years ago because she was half deaf on the right side and a normal knock sometimes didn't register. The door opened a crack. Her eye. Then the chain came off and the door opened all the way, and Noah came barreling into his legs before he'd even fully stepped inside. "Daddy, you're home early." "Yeah, Bug. I got off early today." Mrs. Ortega let me eat 2 crackers with the pink stuff on them. "The pink stuff?" "Salmon," Mrs. Ortega said from behind her. "The spread with the dill." "Oh, nice." He crouched, put both hands on Noah's shoulders, looked at her face. "You okay, Bug?" "Yeah, why?" "No reason. Just checking." She gave him her tilted head look, the animal or dinner one. Then she shrugged and went back into Mrs. Ortega's kitchen, where a cartoon was playing on the little TV on the counter. Liam stood up. He closed the door behind him. Mrs. Ortega was already walking back toward her living room window. A short woman in a long cardigan, her gray hair pulled back in a clip. She lifted 2 fingers of her right hand and beckoned him. "Come, look. But from the side, do not stand in front." He went. He stood beside the window and leaned to look past the edge of the curtain. The sedan was still there. The driver hadn't moved. "The man in the suit," she said. "Where is he?" "On the stoop of the Alvarez building," she said. "Smoking. He smokes like a man who does not usually smoke. He holds it wrong." Liam looked. Across and down, 2 buildings over, where Mrs. Alvarez kept her plants on the stoop, a tall man in a charcoal suit was leaning against the railing with a cigarette pinched between his thumb and forefinger. He wasn't inhaling. He was just holding it, watching the street. "How long has he been there?" "Since 9:40. On and off. He walks. He comes back. He has been up and down the block 3 times. He knocks on doors on this block, not the next one. He is working the block. Very careful." "Did he show you a picture?" "Yes. Young, dark hair, pretty, serious face." "Aria." She looked at him. Mrs. Ortega had small, sharp brown eyes that did not miss much, and had not missed much in the 60-some years she had been using them. "So she is upstairs," she said. "Yeah." "Liam?" "I know. No. Listen, I have lived a long time. I have seen these men before. In my country, and also in this country. The suit is not the dangerous thing. The car is not the dangerous thing. The dangerous thing is that they know to look for her here, on this block, not at the bus station, not at the airport, here. Somebody told them something." His stomach dropped an inch. "I didn't tell anybody." "I know you didn't." She patted his arm. "But somebody did." He stared out the window. The man on the stoop flicked ash. A bus went by and blocked the view of the sedan for 3 seconds. When it cleared, both were still there. "Can you keep Noah another hour?" "I can keep her all day, mijo, but you need to think very carefully now, not fast, carefully." "Yeah." The girl, does she know they are here? Not yet. Tell her. I will. Liam. She caught his sleeve as he turned. If she is not good, if you look at her and she is not good, you put her out. You hear me. You put her out by the back door and you lock it. Your daughter is in the next room. Your daughter is in the next room, Liam. I know. Say it. My daughter is in the next room. Good. She let go of his sleeve. He went out her door. He did not take the front stairs. He went up the back, one floor, to his own. He stood on his landing for a second with his key in his hand. He listened. Nothing. No television, no water, no footsteps. He unlocked the door and pushed it open without stepping in. Arya was on the couch. She stood up the instant the door moved. She didn't say anything. She just stood, her hands at her sides, her whole posture braced for whatever came through the door next. And when she saw it was him, her shoulders came down a quarter inch and no more. You're home early, she said. There's a man on the Alvarez stoop. Her face did something then that he wouldn't forget. It didn't go pale. It didn't crumple. It went still, like a screen being turned off. Every flicker of tiredness, every tremble from the night before, just stopped. Tall, she said. Gray suit, dark hair, holds a cigarette wrong. Yeah, that's Eamon. Eamon. He works for the family. She closed her eyes for half a second. He's security, not the top, the middle. There's a car across the street. Black, town car, dealer plate, no bumper stickers. Yeah. That's Ren driving. If it's a woman, it's Ren. If it's a man, I don't know him. It's a man. Then it's not Ren. Okay. She pressed her hand flat to her forehead. She took a breath. She was not trembling anymore. She was doing something else, something worse. She was organizing. Okay. They didn't find me. They're working the block. They have an area, not a location. Somebody saw me get off the bus maybe, or they've tracked my Metro card. I shouldn't have. I used my old Metro card. I thought it was too old to be flagged. I was wrong. Arya, I need to leave. Right now. I need to go out the back and… Stop, sit down. Liam, if they knock on this door, they're not going to knock on this door in the next 5 minutes. Sit down. She sat. She put her hands under her thighs the way a kid does when a kid is trying not to fidget. He took the chair across from her, the same one she'd sat in last night. Tell me, he said, who Eamon works for. I can't. Arya, there's a man on a stoop 40 feet from my daughter. You're going to tell me. She looked at him. He watched her fight it. He watched her lose. The Mercer family, she said. He waited for the name to mean something to him. It didn't. It was a last name. It was a lot of last names. I don't know who that is. That's good. That means they're good at what they do. Her mouth moved in something that wasn't a smile. Corwin Mercer, asset management, real estate, some shipping concerns up in Grayport, the old kind of money, the kind you don't see on television. He was my father. Was. He still is. I just mean, he was in the sense that I grew up in his house. I left. You left 3 weeks ago. You've been gone 3 weeks and they're still looking. They'll be looking for a long time. Why? She didn't answer. Arya. Because I know things, she said quietly, and because I'm supposed to marry someone in September, and because people like me don't leave, we get moved around. We get managed. A daughter who walks out of the house it's an inventory problem. It's a problem with the ledger. They have to fix it. Mary, that's not the main thing. The main thing is I know things about a… She stopped herself. I can't, Liam. I cannot. The less you know, the better. I am begging you. He looked at her. He felt something cold moving through his chest, like a draft that had found its way through a gap he hadn't known was there. Okay, he said. Okay. Here's what I need you to do. Stay on the couch. Don't go near the window. If the buzzer rings, don't move. If there's a knock, don't move. I'm going to go next door. You can't leave me here alone. I'm going to go next door to Mrs. Ortega's, and I'm going to get my daughter. I'm going to bring her back here. Because I'm not leaving her in an apartment that might get knocked on next. And she's not walking past that stoop with me on the sidewalk. I need you to be somebody she can see for 5 minutes without getting scared. Can you do that? Yes. You sure? Yes. Okay, I'll be back in 90 seconds. He wasn't. He was back in 3 minutes because Noah had been in the middle of an episode of the cartoon and had argued with him. He carried her up the back stairs on his hip, even though she was way too old to be carried on a hip, and she complained about it the entire way, which he was grateful for, because a complaining 6-year-old was a 6-year-old who wasn't scared. He unlocked his own door. He set her down inside. Bug, this is a friend of Daddy's. Her name is Arya. She's going to hang out with us for a little bit. Noah looked at Arya on the couch. Arya looked back at Noah with the softest expression Liam had seen on her yet, something careful and a little afraid, like she was holding a bird. Are you the reason Daddy came home? Yes, Arya said. Are you okay? Arya's voice caught. She cleared her throat. I'm having a hard day. I had a hard day last Tuesday. My friend Rhea said my lunchbox was ugly. That was mean of her. I know. I told her her face was ugly, and then Ms. Dempsey made us both apologize, but I didn't mean it. Noah. What, Daddy? I didn't mean it. I just said I did. Arya laughed. It was the first time Liam had heard her laugh, and it was not what he would have expected. It was low and a little broken and surprisingly warm. I like your lunchbox, Arya said. If you have it. It's pink, and it has astronauts on it because astronauts can be girls. Astronauts can definitely be girls. I know. Noah stared at her a moment longer, appraising. Then she walked over and handed Arya a crayon out of her pocket that Liam had not seen her take from Mrs. Ortega's and said, You can borrow this. It's the purple one. It's my second favorite. Thank you, Arya said. I'll take very good care of it. I know, Noah said, seriously. Then she went to the kitchen table, took out her reading workbook from her bag, and started on a page without being asked, which was a thing she had never in her life done before, and which Liam understood in that moment was because she had picked up, in the way kids pick things up, that something was wrong, and she was being good as a kind of insurance. Liam went to the window. He didn't stand in front of it. He stood at the side, the way Mrs. Ortega had, and looked. The man in the gray suit was no longer on the Alvarez stoop. The sedan was still there. His phone buzzed. Mrs. Ortega. He is at building entrance. 3B buzzer. A second later, the buzzer in his apartment rang. Noah looked up from her workbook. Daddy, who is it? Nobody, Bug. Just keep reading. But the buzzer. I know. Keep reading. Please. She looked at him. She looked at Arya. Arya, on the couch, had gone motionless again. Noah looked back at her workbook and, very slowly, started reading again, mouthing the words without saying them out loud. The buzzer rang again. 2 short bursts this time, same as Arya the night before. Liam had a passing, ridiculous thought. That's the polite version of a knock. This is how rich people signal. He walked to the intercom. He pressed the button. Yeah. The voice on the other end was calm and pleasant, and educated in a way that was aggressive about being pleasant. Good morning. My name is Eamon Lasker. I'm sorry to bother you. I'm looking for a young woman who may have come through this area last night. I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions. It would only take a minute. I just got home from work. I understand. I won't keep you long. I didn't see anybody. I haven't shown you the picture yet, sir. I haven't seen anybody, is what I'm saying. I don't know anybody on this block besides my downstairs neighbor. I work doubles. I don't look at the street. Of course, I completely understand. The voice was patient. The voice had all day. Would it be all right if I came up for just a moment so you could take a look at the picture? It's a family matter. Her family is extremely worried. She's been missing for several weeks. Missing? Yes, sir. Have you tried the police? A tiny pause. A tiny one. But Liam heard it. The family is handling it privately, at her mother's request. The young woman is not well, sir. She needs medical attention. Medical attention. Yes, sir. Huh. If I could just come up. I'm sorry, man. My kid's home sick from school. I'm not having anybody in. You can slide the picture under the door if you want. I'll look at it and call you if I recognize anybody. Sir, that's the best I can do. Another pause. A longer one. I'll come back another time then. Thank you for your time. Sure. Click. Liam let go of the button. He stood there. He heard through the window, cracked an inch at the top for air, the faint sound of a man's shoes going down the outer stoop. He waited a full 10 seconds. Then he went back to the window and looked. Eamon Lasker was standing on the sidewalk, looking up. Not at Liam's window. At the building generally. He took a phone out of his inside pocket. He spoke into it for maybe 30 seconds. Then he walked across the street, got into the back of the sedan, not the front, and the sedan pulled away from the curb and disappeared around the corner. Liam let his forehead touch the cold glass for half a second. "They're gone," he said. "They're not gone," Arya said from the couch. "They're regrouping." "I know." "He heard something in your voice. He'll come back. Maybe tonight. Maybe tomorrow." "What did he hear?" "He heard a person who didn't want him upstairs." That's a data point for him now. He'll cross-reference it with how many apartments refused him. And if it's a short list, you'll be on the short list. If the short list is 2 apartments, he'll watch both of them. Liam turned from the window. "How do you know all this?" "Because I grew up watching it," she said. "Because Eamon Lasker taught me how to walk so a man couldn't grab me from behind when I was 8 years old. Because he worked for my father before I was born, and he knew me before I had teeth. I know exactly how he thinks because he was the closest thing I had to." She stopped. "To what?" She didn't answer. Noah said, without looking up from her workbook, "Daddy, what's ambulance spelled like?" Ambulance. Why is there a U after the A? That doesn't make sense. I don't know, Bug. English is weird. Super weird. Who put the U there? Some guy like 500 years ago. Well, that was stupid of him. Yes, it was. He crossed back to the couch. He crouched so he was at eye level with Arya. He kept his voice low. "We have maybe until tonight," he said. "Probably less. I need to know what you want. I need to know right now. Not the long version, the short version. If you want to keep running, I'll drive you out of this city in the next hour. If you want to go to the police, I'll drive you to the precinct. If you want to..." "I can't go to the police." "Why not?" "Because my father owns 2 of them in this city. Not all of them. 2. But I don't know which 2. And the wrong one is worse than no one." He closed his eyes. "Jesus." "Yeah." "Okay, so, running. Where?" "Anywhere. They'll find me again," she said. "They found me here. They will find me at a bus station in Pittsburgh. They will find me at a shelter in Albany. They will find me in a diner in Erie at 2 in the morning because I used a debit card that wasn't supposed to exist. I can keep running, Liam. I have been running for 3 weeks, and I am very good at it. But the thing about running from people who have money is that they don't get tired. They just buy new people to chase you." "Then what?" "I don't know." "Arya?" "I don't know, Liam. I thought 1 more week, and I could get to a place where I know somebody. A woman I went to school with. In Newcastle. She has a cabin her family owns. If I could get there, I could disappear for a month. I could think. I could make a plan that isn't just walk in the rain until somebody opens a door. Newcastle's 6 hours from here." "I know. By car." "I know. I'm not asking you to drive me there." "I didn't say you were." She looked at him. "I'm not asking you for anything, Liam." "I know," Noah said from the table. "Daddy, I'm hungry." He looked at her. She was watching them. She'd given up pretending to read a minute ago. Her workbook was open to the same page. The crayon Arya had been loaned was sitting on the corner of the table, carefully, like it mattered. "I'll make you lunch, Bug. Give me 2 minutes." He stood up. He went to the kitchen. He opened the fridge. There was a half loaf of bread. There was peanut butter. There was a small plastic tub of strawberry jam. There were eggs. There was half an onion and a sad-looking bell pepper. There was almost no money in his checking account until Friday. He made 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. He cut Noah's into 4 triangles because that was how she liked it. He put them on the blue plate. He poured milk. He set it all in front of her. "Eat." "Is Arya eating?" He looked up. Arya was watching him across the room with an expression he couldn't quite place. "Yeah," he said. "Arya's eating." He made a 3rd sandwich. He put it on a white plate. He brought it to the couch and handed it to Arya with a glass of water because she'd been up 19 hours and was going to fall over if she didn't put something in her body, and she took it with both hands and said thank you very softly. While Noah ate, He sat at the end of the table closest to the couch, where he could see both of them, and he thought. He was 32 years old. He had a daughter asleep in his arms every night after the nightmares. He had a job that paid $18 an hour. He had no savings to speak of. He had a brother in Pittsburgh who loved him and who had, twice, tried to get him to move. He had a wife in the ground in a cemetery 280 miles from here that he had not visited in a year because the drive undid him for a week afterward. He had a couch with a woman on it who had, by her own admission, brought men in suits to his block. He knew what the right move was. The right move was to put her out, or to drive her, right now, to the bus station and put her on any bus going anywhere and wash his hands of it. The right move was the move a man with a daughter was supposed to make, the move that a man who had already lost one person was entitled to make. He watched Noah chew her sandwich. He watched Arya pick at hers. He thought about the sound Arya had made at 11:30 the night before, trying not to cry. He thought, I have been playing it safe for 2.5 years. I have been running my life on the lowest possible setting. I have been so careful with what's left of us that I haven't lived in any of it. He thought, Noah is in the next room. He thought, Mrs. Ortega said, if she is not good, put her out. Arya Bennett, Arya Mercer, whatever her name is not going to hurt my daughter. That I know. He said out loud, Noah, Bug, how do you feel about a trip? She looked up. What kind of trip? A long car ride, tonight, with me and Arya, to a place in the woods where we'll stay a little while. Noah considered this. She had jam on her chin. Arya was staring at him. Is it a vacation? Kind of a vacation. Do I have to go to school tomorrow? No. Is Arya coming? Yes. Do I get to bring Mr. Button? You can bring Mr. Button. Okay. She went back to her sandwich. Liam, Arya said quietly. Don't, he said. Don't ask me why. I'm asking you why. I told you already. I don't want to be the guy who isn't a reason big enough for this, Liam. This is not a couch. I know what it is. Your daughter. I know. If something happens to her because of me, I will not survive it. I just need you to understand that I will not. I will walk into traffic. I'm telling you that now because I need you to know that if you are doing this because you feel sorry for me, you need to stop. I don't feel sorry for you. Then what? He didn't look at her. He looked at Noah. Noah had cut the crust off one of her triangles with the side of her fork and was arranging the crust on the edge of the plate like a little pile. My wife died in our bed 3 years ago, he said. I came home from a work trip. She had a heart thing, a thing nobody knew about, a thing. He stopped. He started again. Doesn't matter. The point is, she died while I was gone. The point is, I was not there. The point is, for 2.5 years, I have been walking around this city telling myself the story that the lesson of that was to stay small. Stay low. Don't reach. Don't open doors. I've told that story to my daughter in 100 different ways without ever saying it out loud. And last night, a woman I do not know knocked on my door, and I opened it, and I do not know why. But I know it was the first thing I have done in 2.5 years that felt like a me thing instead of a widower thing. And when I opened the door, I felt something move in my chest that I have not felt in. He stopped. He'd been talking too much. He could feel Noah listening even though she was pretending not to. Noah at 6 had a radar for grown-up talking that was uncanny. Okay, Arya said. Okay. Okay. I have a brother in Pittsburgh, Liam said. I was going to send my kid there if things got bad. I'm not going to. She stays with me. We go to Newcastle together. You get to your friend's cabin. We drop you. We turn around. We come back in a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is. That's the plan. That's all of the plan. Your job is a loading dock. There are 50 of them in this city. I'll find another one. Your rent. My brother will cover November if I ask him to. He'll bitch, but he will. Liam, don't say thank you again. I can't take another thank you today. Okay. Noah said, Is Arya gonna live with us? Both of them looked at her. No, Bug, Liam said. Arya has a place she's going to. We're just giving her a ride. Oh. She picked up another triangle. She chewed it. She looked at Arya. You can borrow Mr. Button for the ride if you want. Oh. If you get scared in the car. Arya's mouth opened. It closed. She looked down at the sandwich she'd barely touched. Thank you, she said. I might need him. Everybody needs him sometimes, Noah said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world, and went back to her lunch. Liam stood up. He went to the bedroom. He pulled down the duffel bag from the top of the closet, the one he used twice a year when he took Noah to his brother's for Christmas. He started packing. He moved fast now. 3 changes of clothes for Noah, her toothbrush, the small stuffed rabbit called Mr. Button that had belonged to Liam when he was a kid and which Noah had taken over at 3. A change of clothes for himself, a spare pair of boots, his charger. The leather folder with the cash and the passports from the sock drawer. He went back out. Arya was still on the couch, the sandwich still mostly whole in her lap. Finish it, he said. I can't. Finish half. She ate half. He could see how hard it was for her to get it down. He saw then that she hadn't eaten anything substantial in probably more than a day, maybe 2. We leave at 4, he said. After dark is too late if they're watching. Before dark, we look like a dad taking his kid somewhere. I'll rent a car. I'm not taking mine. My plate's been in front of this building for 2 years. They can pull it in an hour. You can't rent on a Thursday afternoon without showing ID. They'll have flagged the area. I'm not renting from an airport chain. There's a guy on 9th who rents beaters for cash. He doesn't look at licenses hard. She stared at him. Why do you know a guy on 9th? I moved my sister-in-law's stuff last year. She didn't want a U-Haul. Long story. You are full of surprises, Liam Carter. Not really. I think so. He didn't answer. He went to the window. The street was quiet again. Somebody was walking a dog past the Alvarez stoop. A school bus went by with its lights off. No sedan, no suit, for now. 4 o'clock, he said, more to himself than to her. 4 hours. I need to call my brother. I need to call my boss. I need to tell Mrs. Ortega. Liam. Yeah. If they come back before 4. Then we go now. Okay. He looked at Noah. She had finished her sandwich. She was drinking the last of her milk. When she set the glass down, there was a small white mustache on her upper lip, and for a second Liam felt something so sharp in his chest that he had to look away from her. He went to the kitchen. He picked up the phone to call his brother. His hand was shaking just a little. He dialed. His brother picked up on the second ring. Yeah, what? Marcus, I need a favor. What kind of favor? The big kind. A pause. His brother breathing. His brother, who had sat with him at the funeral, who had paid the first month's rent on this apartment without ever saying he had paid it, who had never once in 2.5 years said, I told you so about anything. Okay, Marcus said. Tell me. Liam told him. Not all of it, the short version. The man on the stoop, the car, the woman, the cabin in Newcastle, the week or 2, the asking him to cover November, if it came to that. When he was done, Marcus was quiet for a long time. You sure about this? Marcus said. No. Okay. But I'm doing it. Okay, Marcus said again. I'll wire you $1,500 before 5. Don't use your own cards on the road if you can help it. Don't stop in any town with a chain hotel. Call me from payphones if you're scared. There are still payphones probably somewhere. What's the girl's name? Arya. Arya what? That's the thing, Marcus. Got it. Don't look her up, please. I won't. I mean it. I said I won't, just... Liam. Yeah. If this goes bad, I get Noah. Right. You and me on that. Yeah. Paperwork's in the thing you know about. Yeah. Okay. Call me when you get there, not before. I don't want your phone pinging towers I can connect. Okay. I love you, bro. You too. He hung up. He stood at the kitchen counter with his hand on the phone and he closed his eyes for a second. Just a second. Then he opened them. Bug, he said, go get your shoes on. And your jacket. And Mr. Button, we're going to go for a little walk with Arya first. Where? Just around the corner. Then we're going to come back and get the car. The car's downstairs, Daddy. Different car. For a trip. Okay. She went. She didn't ask any more questions, which should have reassured him, and instead didn't, because it meant she'd stopped asking because she was starting to be scared. He watched her put on her little red jacket. He watched her loop her arms through the straps of her backpack. He watched her tuck Mr. Button into the top of the backpack so his ears stuck out. Arya was watching her too, Arya looked like she was watching a thing she didn't have any right to look at. Liam? Arya said. Yeah, I'll make this right. However long it takes. However it has to be. I will make it right. Don't worry about it now. I want you to know. Noted. She stood up. She was steadier now. Something had woken up in her through the course of the morning, some old muscle coming back online. She moved like a person who had once been a person who did things and was remembering how. She walked to the window. She didn't stand in front of it. She stood to the side. She looked out at the empty street. 4 o'clock, she said. 4 o'clock. She turned to him. Thank you for opening the door. Stop thanking me, he said. Seriously, stop. I'm going to crack. A small, tired smile, the first real one he had seen from her. Okay, she said. Outside, a car went by. Not a black one, just a car. A regular gray compact with a dented fender, on its way somewhere normal, with somebody inside it who was having a normal day, doing normal things, who had no idea that in a third-floor apartment above them, 3 people had just agreed to drive into the dark together and try to outrun a name none of them wanted to say out loud. Liam pulled the curtain across the window. Let's move, he said. And they did. They moved. That was the word for it, for what the next hour of their life became. Not a plan being executed, not anything clean, just 3 people in a small apartment moving. Moving as a verb that meant survival. Moving because standing still had become the most dangerous thing they could do. Liam went down the back stairs first. He took the alley at a walk, not a run, because running in an alley on a Thursday afternoon was the kind of thing that made a face show up at a window and stick there. He cut through the loading bay of the dry cleaner on the corner of 9th and Delford, came out onto 9th 2 blocks south of where anyone watching his building would be watching, and walked another 4 blocks to a squat brick garage with a hand-painted sign that said, Velko's, Cars by the Day. Velko was a 60-year-old Ukrainian with hands the size of oven mitts and a tattoo on his forearm of a saint he couldn't name. Liam had helped him move a broken transmission 2 years ago for cash because rent had been short. Velko had not forgotten, because Velko did not forget, because Velko's brain worked like a ledger where every favor was a line item waiting for settlement. Liam. Velko. You look like you slept in a hallway. I need a car. 2 days, maybe 3. Cash. What you need. Something that runs. Nothing new. Nothing with a GPS in the dashboard. Velko looked at him a long moment. He did not ask. He never asked. Velko had come up in a place where asking was a luxury people couldn't afford, and he had kept the habit. I have a Buick, 2003. Plate is clean. Runs. Heat works. Radio don't. You got 400. I got 300 cash now, and I can have the rest on Friday. 300 now, 400 Friday. And I give you a plate from the yard in the back, you change it if you get nervous. You drop the old plate in a dumpster before you cross state line. Deal? Deal. Velko shook his hand once, hard. He walked to a pegboard full of keys, pulled a set, threw them underhand. Liam caught them. Brown one, Velko said, pointing. In the back corner. Passenger door don't lock from outside, you lock it from inside. And Liam. Yeah, whatever it is, drive with your lights on. Yeah. I mean it. Headlights in daytime. Makes you look like a working man who's tired. Nobody watches a tired working man. Thanks, Velko. Friday. Friday. The Buick was a brown sedan with a dent in the passenger quarter panel and a cracked dash and upholstery that smelled faintly of cigarette smoke and faintly of something like leather cleaner underneath it. The engine turned over on the second try. The heat worked. The radio, as promised, did not. Liam pulled out of the garage with his headlights on, drove a deliberately boring circuit through 4 side streets to make sure he wasn't being followed, and pulled up half a block from his building on the alley side at 347. He did not go up the front stairs. He texted Arya from the driver's seat. Ready. 3 minutes later, the laundry room door opened and Arya came out first, then Noah, with Mr. Button poking out of her backpack, and then Liam's chest did a little sharp thing when he saw her. Mrs. Ortega, a grocery bag in each hand, walking them to the car. Liam, she said when he got out, I pack you some things, crackers, cheese, apple, a thermos with soup. Noah likes the soup. Don't stop at the rest stops for food. Rest stops, they have cameras now. Mrs. Ortega, also this. She pushed a thick envelope into his hand. 200. Don't say no. Don't be proud. I am 81 years old, and I will not take it to the grave. I'll pay you back. You will pay me back by coming home alive. She bent down. She put her palm on Noah's cheek. Mi corazón, you are going on a big adventure. You listen to your daddy, see? Sí, abuela. Mrs. Ortega's eyes went wet. She had told Noah a year ago that Noah could call her that. Noah had only ever used it twice. Mrs. Ortega kissed her forehead fast and stood up and did not look at Liam again because she had her composure to keep and did not have room in it for another farewell. Go, she said. Go. They got in. Noah in the back with her booster seat buckled, Mr. Button in her lap, Arya in the passenger. Liam pulled away from the curb at the speed of a man driving his kid to a piano lesson. 3 blocks later, he saw the black sedan. It was 2 cars behind him on 9th, cruising, not hurrying, keeping pace. Tinted windows. No plate number he could read from the rear view. Arya. I see it. How long? Since we turned. Since we turned off our block? Yes. That's too fast. They can't have seen us come out. Then somebody on the block called. Or a camera. Or somebody watching the alley I didn't know about. He kept his hands at 10 and 2. He kept his speed at the limit. He did not look in the rear view more than a working dad should. He went through a yellow, not a red, a normal driver's yellow, and the sedan went through it behind him. Noah, he said. Bug, listen to me. I'm going to drive a little weird for the next couple minutes. It's okay. Daddy's just playing a little game. You keep Mr. Button tight, okay? Okay, Daddy. Arya, you got the map. I have it. Talk to me. No highway. I can't do the highway with them on my tail. We're too exposed. Take the next left. Second left. There's a 3-way intersection 4 blocks down where you can go onto Pallister without a light. Just a stop sign. Pallister's 1-way west. They'll have to cut around a block. You know this neighborhood? I know every neighborhood in this city, Liam. I grew up here. I was not allowed out of the car alone, but I was in the car every day of my life. He took the second left. Through his rear view, the sedan stayed on 9th for half a second too long, and then committed, jerking left after him, which was the first aggressive thing they'd done, which told him they had decided the game was over. They've made us, he said. Yes. Hold on, Bug. He gunned it. Not a lot. Enough. He took Pallister at 30, went 2 blocks in 6 seconds, cut right at the stop sign without stopping, cut left 2 blocks later, cut right again. He lost them for maybe 40 seconds. In those 40 seconds, he made the light at Harper, got onto Harper heading east, and slid the Buick into the middle lane in a pack of 3 cars so that from any angle behind him, he was just one more brown car in traffic. Stay on Harper, Arya said. Her voice was tight but not panicked. Harper becomes 11th Street after the river. 11th goes all the way to the bridge. If we can get to the bridge, we're out of the city, and if we're out of the city, Ren has to pull more cars off other teams to stay with us, and it takes her 20 minutes to do that. How do you know her name's Ren? I don't. It's not her. This is somebody else. It's fine. I was using it as a name for the person. Arya. What? Who is the person they're going to call? She was quiet. Arya. If we're going to do this, I need to know what I'm looking at. My father's head of security is a man named Theo Quint. He's not in the car. He's in an office. He coordinates. He's calm. He's not a brute, Liam. Nothing about any of this is movie stuff. They are not going to try to shoot us. That is not how this works. They will try to stop the car in a way that looks like an accident. They will try to get me out of it in a way that looks like a family intervention. If that fails, they will follow us to wherever we go, and they will wait. They will wait until we're tired. They're very good at waiting. Trust me, Noah. I know. I have a 6-year-old in this car, Arya. I know, Liam. He breathed out through his nose. He passed a garbage truck. He checked his mirror. No sedan. Not yet. Daddy? Yeah, Bug. Is the game still going? Yeah, Bug. A little bit longer. Are we winning? He looked at her in the rear view. She had Mr. Button pressed against her chest. Yeah, he said. We're winning. He made it to the bridge. He got over the bridge. 20 minutes after that, he was on the state highway heading west. in a slow stream of late afternoon commuters, and the sedan had not reappeared. The sky had gone from gray to gray-orange. A sign said, Newcastle 237. 4 hours if we don't stop, he said. 5 if we do. Let's not stop. I've got a kid who needs to pee in 3 hours max. Then we stop once. Gas station off and exit with nothing else on it. Pay cash, don't use a card. Yes, ma'am. Don't yes, ma'am me. Sorry. A small silence. Noah was singing something under her breath in the back seat, the way she did when she was trying to self-soothe, and didn't want to admit to anybody that she was self-soothing. It was a song from a cartoon, something about a mouse who ran a bakery. Liam. Yeah. I need to tell you something. Okay. Not because it changes the plan. The plan is still Newcastle. I'm going to get out of your car, and I'm going to go to the cabin, and you are going to turn around and drive home and forget I ever existed. I want to say that first. That's the plan. Nothing changes. Okay. But you asked me what I know. You asked me why they're coming this hard. Yeah, I'm going to tell you a piece of it, a small piece. Because if something happens to me between here and Newcastle, and it doesn't happen to you, I need one other person in the world to know even a little bit of it. Arya, nothing's going to happen to you. Just listen. Okay. She took a breath. She was staring at the wiper that was going back and forth even though it wasn't raining anymore, because he'd forgotten to turn it off after the mist from the bridge. My father has a foundation, she said. A charitable foundation. It sends money to a hospital, a children's hospital, in the north of the state. The hospital is real. The hospital treats actual kids. The money mostly goes to the hospital. Mostly. About 14% of the money does not go to the hospital. It goes into a second entity that my father controls and that pays bills. Consulting fees to people who are not consultants, to people who do favors for him that he cannot pay for out of the main business because the main business gets audited. Okay. The foundation has been running for 19 years. I did not know any of this until I was 20. I found out because my father was, for reasons I will not go into, too drunk one night to remember I was in the room when he was explaining it to my uncle. I have known for 4 years. Why did you leave now? Why not 2 years ago? Because 2 years ago I didn't have anything. No money, no contact, no plan. Because a month ago, a woman from the hospital, the real hospital, the hospital that gets the 86%, called my mother's house by accident looking for my father and talked to me instead. And she started telling me about a pediatric oncology wing they had been promised funding for that had not been funded. And she was telling me like I knew about it, like I was one of the people in charge, and I realized for the first time that those 86% kids are also getting shortchanged, because my father is also skimming from the part that's supposed to go to the hospital. He is stealing from children with leukemia, Liam, and he has been doing it for 19 years. And he is going to make me marry a man named Wells Harrington in September to consolidate 2 foundation boards and expand the scheme into 3 more states. He had been driving. He kept driving. The lines on the road went under the hood and disappeared. Arya, I have copies of the ledgers. Not the real ones. Photographs. I took them on my phone over 4 nights. I transferred them to a drive. The drive is in the lining of the coat I was wearing when I came to your apartment. It's still in the coat. The coat. On your radiator. Christ, Arya, you left it on my radiator. It's sewn into the lining. Nobody's going to find it unless they take the coat apart. It's fine. It'll be dry by the time we get back. And Liam, I am telling you this because if something happens to me, I need you to do one thing. Just one. I'm not going to want to do one thing. I'm going to want to not know any of this. I know. But if it happens, if they get me and I'm gone, there's a reporter at the Harlan End Ledger named Priya Kohli. I want you to take that coat to her. She knows who my father is. I contacted her once from a burner phone 3 months ago. She's careful. She's good. She won't burn you. Give her the drive and walk away. That's all. One thing. He drove. The highway was quiet. A semi passed them in the left lane and the Buick rocked slightly in the draft. Okay, he said. Okay. One thing. If, which it's not going to come to. One thing. Okay? She was crying. He realized it a second after he said it. She wasn't making any noise. She had turned her face to the window and was crying in the way she had cried on the couch the night before, with her whole body held still so you wouldn't know it was happening. Arya, I'm okay. Okay. Thank you. You said you'd stop thanking me. I know, I lied. He laughed. He didn't mean to. It came out anyway, small and rough. She laughed too. It wasn't a happy sound. It was the sound two people make when they're exhausted and scared, and there is nothing else left to do with the air in their lungs. In the back seat, Noah had fallen asleep. Her head was tilted against the side of her booster, and Mr. Button had slid down into her lap, and her mouth was open just slightly, and she looked exactly like her mother, and Liam had to blink twice hard before he could see the road clearly again. They stopped once, at an exit 90 minutes west, at a gas station with 2 pumps and a single attendant who didn't look up from his phone. Arya stayed in the car with Noah. Liam filled the tank. He paid cash. He bought 2 bottles of water and a bag of pretzels and used the bathroom, which was locked and required him to ask the attendant, who slid a key with a wooden paddle across the counter without making eye contact. He was back in the car in under 7 minutes. He pulled out with his headlights on. It was dark by the time they came down out of the mountains. The highway had narrowed to 2 lanes. Pine trees crowded the shoulder. The air through the vents got colder. Take the next exit, Arya said. Route 6, go 12 miles, past a gas station with a moose statue. You can't miss it. A moose statue? It was a whole thing in the 70s. Okay. Route 6 was a 2-lane road that wound through a forest. There were no streetlights. There were almost no other cars. Once, a pickup truck came the other way and blinded them with its brights, and Arya flinched so hard her whole body came off the seat. Sorry, she said. Sorry. I thought, it's okay. Sorry. Arya, it's okay. The moose statue appeared on their right 10 miles in, a chipped fiberglass thing standing in front of a dark gas station. Past the moose, Arya told him to slow down, told him to look for a dirt turnoff that would be marked with a mailbox shaped like a fish. They almost missed it anyway. He backed up 30 feet and took the turn. The dirt road was worse than he expected. The Buick's shocks were in no condition for it. It wound through trees for half a mile, the beams of the headlights catching pine trunks and darting away, and then opened into a clearing, and in the clearing there was a small cabin with a porch light on. The porch light was on. Arya, I know. I thought you said nobody was here. My friend said she'd leave it unlocked. She didn't say she'd leave the light on. She doesn't live here. Her family doesn't live here. Nobody lives here. Then why is the light on? Because she turned it on remotely, or because a neighbor turns it on when they see a car coming, or because... The door of the cabin opened. A man stepped out onto the porch. He was backlit by the light inside. Liam could not see his face. He could only see that he was tall, and that he was wearing a dark coat, and that he was standing with the casual patience of somebody who had been waiting for a while and was willing to wait longer. Arya, Liam said very quietly. Who is that? She did not answer. Arya. That's my brother. Liam's hands went cold. That's Callum. That's my older brother. Is that bad or good? I don't know. Arya. Is that bad or good? I don't know, Liam. He was the only person I ever told I was going to leave. 6 months ago. I was drunk. I told him. He said he understood. He said he'd help me. And then he never brought it up again, and I thought he'd forgotten. Or I thought he was being careful. Or I thought, he sold you out. I don't know. He's here. He's here in the one place you told exactly one person about. I didn't tell him about Marin's cabin. Are you sure? She stopped. I'm not sure. The man on the porch raised one hand. Not a wave exactly. A gesture of acknowledgement. I see you. I'm not hiding. In the back seat, Noah stirred. Daddy, where are we? Shh, Bug. Almost there. Go back to sleep. Is the game still going? Yeah, Bug. Liam did not turn the engine off. He kept his foot near the pedal. He kept the transmission in drive. The Buick idled roughly. Arya, I need to know right now whether to back out of this driveway. I don't know. That's not good enough. He is not Eamon, Liam. He is not Theo Quint. He is my brother. He He used to sneak me comic books when I was supposed to be studying. He is the son of the man who wants you back. Arya. I know. On the porch. The man took a step forward into the beam of the headlights, and Liam could see his face now. A long, fine-boned face, the same shape as Arya's, a few years older, tired in a way that looked honest even to a man who had every reason not to trust it. He held his hands open at his sides. Empty. He mouthed through the windshield 2 words Liam could read clearly even through the glass. I'm alone. Arya. Liam, I need... Arya, listen to me. He could have 5 guys in the cabin behind him. He could have told the old man exactly where we are 90 seconds ago. I have a kid in this car. I know. The man, Callum, stopped on the edge of the porch. He stayed there. He did not come any closer. He stood in the headlights and waited. After a long moment, Arya said, Pop the trunk. What? Pop the trunk. I'm going to get out. Alone. I'm going to walk halfway to him. If anything happens, you drive. You turn this car around and you drive out of here with your daughter, and you do not stop until you are in Pittsburgh with your brother. You do not come back. You do not think about it. You drive. Arya, do you hear me? I hear you. Say you'll do it. I'm not leaving you out there. Say it, Liam. Her voice cracked on his name. He sat with his hands on the wheel. The wiper blade, which he had finally shut off an hour ago, was motionless. In the back seat, Noah had started to hum again, half asleep, that little song about the mouse. Okay, he said. I'll drive. Thank you. Arya. What? I don't believe you about driving away. What do you mean? I mean, I'll drive away. But I'll come back, not now. Not with her. But I'll come back, so don't do anything stupid out there thinking I'm gone forever. Don't make this the last thing you do. I can't. He didn't finish. He couldn't find the end of the sentence. She looked at him. Her face in the dashboard lights was 10 years younger and 10 years older at the same time. Okay, she said. She opened the door. She got out. Cold air came in. She pushed the door closed softly so it wouldn't wake Noah. She walked slowly across the packed dirt of the clearing and stopped at a distance Liam estimated was exactly halfway between the Buick and the porch. On the porch, Callum took a step down. Then another. He walked to within 5 feet of her and stopped. Liam rolled his window down an inch so he could hear. Ari, don't call me that. Sorry. What are you doing here, Callum? Marin called me. Marin. Her voice went flat. Marin called you. 3 weeks ago, when you first reached out to her. She called me the same day. She was scared, Ari. She had 2 kids. She knew what Dad was. She didn't want to be the house where it all blew up. She wanted out. She asked me what to do. I told her. I told her to tell you the cabin was fine, to say yes. And then I told her I would come and I would get here first. To bring me back. No. Don't lie to me. I am not lying to you. Ari, look at my face. Arya did not move. She was facing him. Liam could not see her expression from the car. Ari, I've been at the cabin for 4 days. Alone. No phone. Driving 2 hours each way to town if I wanted to make a call. Which I didn't. I left my phone at a house in Brookline with a friend who's been using Bluetooth to make it look like it's in the city. I have been off the grid for 4 days. If Dad knew where I was, the driveway would already be full of cars. You know this. Callum, I brought you your passport, your real one, not the one you have. The one you have is the one Mom gave you when you were 17 that has a typo in the middle name that triggers a flag at every border. Dad did that on purpose. I have the clean one. How do you have a clean one? Because I've been building one for you for 6 months, Ari. I told you I understood. I wasn't being careful. I was working. Liam watched Arya's back. He watched her shoulders, which had not come down, and then slowly, with a slowness that looked almost painful from the car, began to lower. You, she said. You. Yeah. You could have told me. No, I couldn't. You could have told me, Callum. If I had told you, you would have waited. You wouldn't have run. You would have done it the safe way, the way where you let me do it for you, and you would have been safe. And you would still have been in that house a year from now, waiting for me to finish. You had to go. You had to decide for yourself. I couldn't do that part for you. Her whole body was shaking now. Liam could see it from the car. Not from cold. The porch light was catching her and her whole silhouette was trembling. They sent people, she said. Today, to Harlan End, to the street where I... She stopped. She did not name the street. They almost got me. I know. I heard Theo on a call this morning. I drove up here an hour faster than I was going to. You heard. Marin has been texting me on a second phone. Every day. She told me last night that she thought you'd made it to someone's apartment in the city. She didn't know whose. She was worried sick, Ari. She's still worried sick. She wants you to call her when it's safe. She wanted you to know that. Aria turned her head. She looked back at the Buick. She could not see inside it. She was looking anyway. Then she looked at Callum again. I don't know if I believe you, she said. I know. I don't know if I can. I know that too. If you're lying to me, if I'm lying to you, I'll never see my sister again either way. Dad won't forgive this. If he's in that cabin waiting, if I brought you here for him, then I am also done. So either I'm lying and I'm done, or I'm telling the truth and I might still have a sister. I know which side of that I'd rather be on. Come look inside the cabin. Callum, just come look, both of you. Bring... He gestured to the car. Bring your friend. Bring the kid. There's no one in there. There's a fire in the stove and there is soup on the burner because I didn't know what time you'd get here. I brought your passport and $11,000 in cash and a car in a garage behind the cabin with plates from Wyoming that will get you across the country. I have been building you a door, Ari. I just needed you to walk to it. Aria made a sound. It was not a word. It was a sound a person makes when something in them that has been locked for a very long time finally opens, and she did not cover her face, and she did not fall, but she made the sound, one, low, from somewhere in her chest. Callum did not move. He did not try to hug her. He had, Liam understood, known his sister long enough to know she would not want that right now. Aria turned toward the car. She walked back. She opened the passenger door. She leaned in. Her face was wet, but her eyes were steady. It's okay, she said. Liam, it's okay. It's okay. Liam looked past her at the tall man on the porch, who had not moved, who was standing with his hands still open at his sides. Aria. Yes. If he's lying, then we leave. Right now. But I need to go inside. I need to see. I need to know. If there's nobody in there, if Callum is telling the truth, there are things in that cabin I need, my passport, the money. If Callum built me a door, I need to walk through it. But you don't have to come in. You can turn around, you can go home. I wouldn't blame you. Aria, stop. What? I didn't drive you 5 hours to leave you on a porch. He killed the engine. He reached back and put a hand on Noah's shoulder very gently. Bug, wake up. We're here. Where's here? Somewhere in the woods. We're going to go inside for a little bit. It's going to be okay. You're going to meet Aria's brother. Aria has a brother. Yeah. I don't have a brother. I know, Bug. That's okay, though. I have Mr. Button. Yeah, you do. He got out. He went around the car. He opened Noah's door and unbuckled her and lifted her, booster and all, no, just her, out of the seat and onto his hip. She wrapped her arms around his neck. Mr. Button hung from her fist by one ear. He walked, with Aria beside him, across the clearing to the porch, where a man who looked like his sister stood waiting with his hands open, and the smell of wood smoke and something that might have been potato soup came out of the open cabin door, and the porch light flickered once and held, and for a moment, just a moment, Liam would think later, the kind of moment that does not last long enough for anyone to trust it. For a moment it felt like they had made it. Callum looked at Noah. His face did something. Hi, he said to her, very softly. Hi, she said. She was studying him the way she had studied Aria, head tilted, small animal. You must be tired. A little bit. There's soup inside. Is it chicken soup or not chicken soup? Potato. Okay, I'll try it. Good. He stepped aside to let them in. Liam paused at the threshold. He looked at Callum over Noah's head. If you're lying to her, he said quietly, and anything happens to my daughter, I will find you, and I will not be the person you expect me to be about it. Callum looked at him, not with offense, with something close to respect. If I'm lying to her, he said, I deserve it. Liam nodded once. He carried Noah inside. The cabin was a single room downstairs and a loft above. A stove in the corner was burning low, a pot on a propane burner. A table set for 4 because Callum had known somehow that it would be 4. 2 duffel bags on the floor. A thick envelope on the table that Liam did not look directly at, but which he understood in one glance was the money Callum had said it was. Arya walked slowly into the middle of the room. She turned once, taking it in. She stopped at the table. She put her hand flat on the envelope. She did not open it. She said, so quietly, Liam almost didn't hear it. Okay? Just that. Just okay. Callum closed the door behind them. He threw the deadbolt. The deadbolt was new. Liam noticed. It was new because Callum had put it on sometime in the last 4 days. Sit down, Callum said. Eat, then we talk. Arya sat. Noah sat beside her, on the same bench, as if that were the only place in the room she was willing to sit. Liam sat across from them. Callum ladled soup into bowls. It was not victory. Liam understood that even as he took the first spoonful of it. Nothing had been won. There was still a black sedan somewhere on a road, and a man named Theo Quint at a desk somewhere, and a foundation running for 19 years that fed a scheme, and a drive sewn into the lining of a coat on a radiator 300 miles east. There was still a wedding in September that a woman was being sold into. There was still a man Arya had called Dad, who had not yet lost. But at this table, in this cabin, with the fire in the stove and the soup in 4 bowls, and a 6-year-old trying her first spoonful and deciding audibly that it was pretty good, something that had been only Arya's weight, and then only Liam's weight, and then the 2 of theirs to carry together. Something about that weight for 1 hour shifted. Callum sat down at the head of the table. He looked at his sister. His face, Liam saw it now, up close, was bracketed with lines that had no business on a man his age. He looked like a person who had been carrying a secret so long his bones had begun to grow around it. Ari? Yeah. I'm sorry. For what? For all of it. She did not answer. She did not have to. She reached across the corner of the table and she put her hand on top of her brother's hand, and she left it there. And he turned his palm up and laced his fingers through hers. And they sat like that, not looking at each other, while Noah ate her soup and swung her feet and hummed to herself in the voice of a child who had decided, against all evidence of the last 12 hours, that the grown-ups had finally figured it out. Outside, the wind moved in the pines. Liam watched them all. The woman who had knocked on his door, the brother who had built her a door, the daughter who had agreed on a child's faith to get in a car with him and drive into a dark he could not explain. He picked up his spoon. He ate. Whatever came next, and something was coming, he could feel it in the back of his neck, in the part of him that had been listening for footsteps for 2.5 years. Whatever came next, it would find them at this table first. He ate his soup. He watched his daughter lick the back of her spoon. He let himself believe, for the length of a single breath, that they were going to be all right. Then he set the spoon down, and he went to the window, and he looked out at the dark between the pines, and he started, quietly, to count. He counted to 40 before he saw the first set of headlights wash across the far tree line, faint and brief, and then vanish. Maybe a neighbor 2 miles down the road, maybe nothing, maybe everything. He counted to 110 before he admitted to himself that standing at the window was not going to stop anything from happening, and he turned back to the table. Callum. Yeah. How long do we have? Callum set his spoon down. He looked at his sister first, not Liam, as if asking permission he was not going to be denied. Arya gave him a single nod, small, tired. 8 hours, Callum said. Maybe 10. My friend in Brookline powers down my phone at 4 a.m. every night. That's the routine I set up. When it doesn't come back on at 7, somebody in Theo's office is going to notice by 9 at the latest. They'll call the Brookline house. The friend doesn't pick up. They'll send a car there by noon. Once they find the phone, they'll know I played them, and they'll know roughly when I left, and they will triangulate every property our family has ever touched that is more than 2 hours from a city. This cabin is on the list. It's not at the top. It's not in Dad's name. It's in Marin's mother's name. But it'll be on the list by 5 tomorrow afternoon at the outside. So we leave at sunrise. We leave at 4. My kid, your kid sleeps in the car. I'm sorry. I wish I could give you the night. Liam looked at Noah. She had finished most of her soup. Her head was starting to dip. Her left hand was still around Mr. Button's ear. Her right hand held a spoon that was no longer moving. Bug. You want to go lie down? Mm-hmm. Callum pointed to the loft. Blankets up there, 2 pillows. I changed the sheets yesterday. You changed the sheets? Yeah. You changed the sheets in a cabin where nobody was coming. Somebody was coming. Liam carried Noah up the narrow ladder. She was almost too heavy for it, almost too tall for him to do without banging her head. But he managed, and laid her on the small bed under the eaves. He took off her shoes. He tucked the quilt around her. Mr. Button went under her arm. She murmured something that might have been Daddy, and might have been Donut, and was asleep before he got back down the ladder. When he sat back down at the table, Arya was looking at him in a way he could not quite meet. What? He said. Nothing. Arya. Nothing. Eat. Callum, after a second, cleared his throat and said, So, the plan. The plan, laid out on a kitchen table in a cabin 230 miles from any place either of them was supposed to be, was this. At 4 in the morning, they would put everything they needed into the car Callum had stashed in the shed behind the cabin, a gray hatchback with Wyoming plates, and a registration under a name Arya had never heard of. Arya would drive west with Callum, not south, which Theo would expect, not east, which was back toward everything. West, into country where her last name meant nothing, into a small town in a state neither of them had ever lived in, where Callum had spent 3 weekends last spring setting up a rental under a shell. She would go there. She would stay there for 2 weeks. She would not make a phone call for any reason. After 2 weeks, if nothing had come apart, she would move again, one more time, to a second location that Callum would not name, not even here, not even now, because naming a place was the first way a place got lost. Liam would leave at 4 also. He would go the other way. He would take Noah home to Harlan's End, and he would go back to his apartment, and he would live his life like a man who had driven up to a friend's cabin to help her move a couch, and had now come home. And the coat. The coat, Liam said. Arya looked up sharply. Callum's head turned. What coat? Callum said. Her coat. The one she was wearing when she came to my door. She sewed a drive into the lining. Photographs. Ledgers, the foundation. Callum closed his eyes for a full 3 seconds. Ari, don't. How long have you had? Don't, Callum, just don't. I had it when I left. I took it before I went. On your phone. On a phone I burned in a toilet in a bus station in New Hampshire. On a drive. Yes. In a coat. Yes. Callum put both hands flat on the table. He took a breath that did not seem to go all the way in. Ari, we need to burn it. No. Ari, if Dad's people find that, they won't find it. It's at Liam's apartment, on a radiator. On a radiator. It's sewn into the lining. Nobody's going to pull apart a coat on a radiator in a walk-up in Harlan's End. They went to his block looking for a person. They didn't search his apartment. They didn't know his apartment. They know it now. The table went quiet. Callum looked at Liam. They what? Liam said. They know it now. If a man in a gray suit buzzed your apartment this morning and you told him no, and then an hour later you left your building with your daughter and a young woman fitting a description. He went to his car and he made a phone call, and by now a person who works for Theo Quint is sitting in a coffee shop across from your building and writing down your license plate. By tomorrow morning, somebody will be inside your apartment. They will not break anything. They will not leave a mark. They will go through it, and they will find the coat on the radiator, and they will look at it. And if there is one loose thread on the lining, Liam, one, they will pull it. Liam sat still. They might not, Arya said. They might. Ari, stop. They will. This is what they do. Priya Kohli, Liam said. What? The reporter. Arya told me about her this afternoon. Said if something happened, I should take the drive to her. Priya Kohli is a real person, Callum said. Priya is who I would have used. Priya is who I was building toward Ari. Quietly, slowly. I didn't want to bring her anything without a clean chain. I didn't want anyone tied to it they couldn't get out of. It's already not clean, Callum. I know. I gave it to Liam. I know. I gave it to Liam because I thought I was going to get picked up on the side of a road somewhere and nobody would ever know. I know. A long silence. The fire in the stove popped. Somewhere outside, an owl made a sound that was not quite the sound owls are supposed to make. Liam said, "So somebody has to go back." Both of them looked at him. "Somebody has to go back to the apartment before tomorrow morning," he said. "Somebody has to get that coat. Because the thing on that radiator is the only leverage any of us has, and if we lose it, Arya runs for the rest of her life." "Liam, I'm doing it." "No." "Arya, no." "Callum, tell him no." Callum was not looking at his sister. Callum was looking at Liam, and in Callum's face, Liam saw a man who had been a brother his whole life, who had been running a long con out of love for 4 years, who understood, in a way his sister did not yet want to understand, that there are some offers you do not refuse on somebody else's behalf. "Liam," Callum said, "how far is your apartment from here?" 4 hours and change. Less if I push. No traffic at this hour. "You'd have to leave now." "I know. Your kid." "My kid stays here with Arya until I come back. Then I take her." "Liam, Arya, look at me." She looked at him. "I cannot take my daughter back to that apartment tonight. I cannot take her into a place that somebody might already be watching. So she stays here, with you, and her uncle. He's an uncle tonight, Callum. Shut up. And I go home alone in the Buick. I go up my back stairs. I get the coat off the radiator, and I drive it to the only person you two agree is the person to give it to. Priya Kohli. I go to her building. I put it in her hands. I come back here. And I take my daughter, and I go home. If they're already inside your apartment, then I turn around, and I drive away, and I call you from a payphone. If they're watching the building, then I don't go up the front. I go up Mrs. Ortega's fire escape, which I helped rebuild 2 summers ago, and I go in through the kitchen window I know doesn't latch if you push it right. Arya was shaking her head, not in a no, in a thing that was closer to refusal than argument. Liam, I cannot ask you. You didn't ask. Please, I'm volunteering. Liam, Arya, I don't want you to do this. I know. She put her hands up, palms against her eyes, and she held them there. Her shoulders went. Not a collapse, just a releasing, a thing coming loose that had been holding for 24 hours. Callum, after a moment, reached over and put one hand on her forearm, very lightly, and she did not push him off. Callum said, without looking up, "There's a phone in the drawer by the stove. Burner. 200 minutes. Take it. If you get pulled over, you're driving home from a friend's because your daughter threw up at a sleepover. The friend's name is Mara. She lives in Newcastle. She's 34. She's a nurse. Her number's in the phone under Mara. She will confirm the story if somebody calls. You understand? Yeah. If a cop runs your plate and it comes back weird, it's because I swapped plates from Velko's yard at midnight. The plate I put on the Buick when you were eating is registered to a Toyota in Vermont owned by a dead man. Don't get pulled over." "Got it. When you get to Priya, tell her you have something from a source who would like to remain anonymous until she can confirm she has protection. Don't give her Arya's name. Don't give her mine. Don't give her a last name for Arya. If she pushes, you tell her the source will contact her through a specific channel. The channel is an encrypted email address. I'll write down on a card for you before you go. The source will reach out within 72 hours. You do not become the source, Liam. You are a courier. That's it. Okay? Give her the drive. Don't give her the coat. The coat can stay with you, or you can burn it. The drive is in the lining. Ari, where? Inside pocket, behind the stitching, left side if you're wearing it. I used a seam ripper. I restitched it with, it's not pretty. You'll see the thread. Okay. There's 2 drives, she added. I didn't tell you that part. One's a decoy, mostly photos of the house. A few pages of legitimate foundation paperwork. The real one is the smaller one. It's glued behind a piece of stiff board I cut out of a magazine. If somebody finds the first one and thinks they have it, they might stop looking. Callum looked at his sister for a long beat. That, he said, is the smartest thing anybody in this family has done in 4 generations. She made a sound that might have been a laugh if she'd had anything left. Liam stood up. His knees cracked. He was aware suddenly of every muscle in his back. He had been awake since 5 that morning. He had 240 miles in front of him and another 240 after that. And somewhere in between the two, he had to move through his own apartment like a stranger. And somewhere after that, he had to hand something breakable to a person he had never met. He went to the loft ladder. He climbed halfway up. Noah was curled under the quilt, her cheek mashed against the pillow, her hair falling in her eyes. He reached and moved it off her face. "Bug," he said, very low. I have to go do one more thing." I'll be back before lunch. Arya's here. You're safe. You can trust her, okay? And there's another grown-up, Callum. He's Arya's brother. He's okay too." "Okay, Daddy. I love you." "Love you, Daddy." She did not fully wake. He stood on the ladder a second more than he needed to. Then he climbed down. Arya was at the door when he turned around. She had his jacket in her hands. He hadn't realized he'd taken it off. "Here." "Thanks." "Liam." "Yeah. If—" She stopped. She started again. "If it goes wrong, if they're in the apartment, if anything is off, promise me you walk away. You come back here, empty-handed. Promise me." "I promise." "Don't lie to me." "I'm not. I'll walk away. We're not losing this on one coat." "Okay. Okay." She went up on her toes. She kissed him on the cheek. It was fast. It was nothing, and it was also a thing neither of them had planned for and neither of them acknowledged. And she stepped back and dropped her eyes and said, "Drive with your lights on." "Yeah." He nodded to Callum. Callum nodded back. Liam stepped out onto the porch. The cold hit him all at once. He pulled the jacket tight. He walked across the clearing to the Buick, which was still warm from the drive-in. He got in. He did not look back at the cabin because he was afraid he would stop. He turned the key. The Buick coughed, caught. He backed down the rutted drive with his lights off until he hit the dirt road, then flipped them on. He drove the 12 miles back to Route 6 at exactly the speed limit. He got on the state highway heading east. The dashboard clock said 10:47. The first hour was fine. The highway was empty. His radio didn't work. He drove in silence, with the heater groaning, and for a while his thoughts did not so much move as idle. Circling Noah in the loft, circling Arya at the door, circling the coat on a radiator in an apartment he had not been inside in 7 hours and was beginning to think of as another country. The second hour was worse. He passed a state trooper parked in the median and his hands went white on the wheel for a full mile. The trooper did not move. He kept driving. He thought about Mrs. Ortega. He thought about Mr. Fenn upstairs with his cough. He thought about the pot of macaroni on the stove that he hadn't washed because the day had gotten away from him, and then remembered that Arya had washed it, and the small detail of that, a woman he did not know, washing his kitchen pot at 5 in the morning, put something in his throat he couldn't swallow past. Somewhere around the 3rd hour, the burner buzzed in his pocket. He almost ran off the road reaching for it. Callum. "Yeah. Change of plan. Don't go up the fire escape." "What?" "Don't go up the fire escape. Don't go in at all through Mrs. Ortega's side. They'll be watching the building from the front and the alley. I want you to go to Pappy's." "Pappy's?" "The diner you told Arya about, 2 blocks from your place. You told her to take your kid there if anything happened. How do you—" "Arya told me, go to Pappy's, order a coffee, sit in the booth closest to the kitchen. In 10 minutes, a woman's going to come in. Mid-50s, short gray hair, blue raincoat. She'll ask if the seat across from you is taken. She's my friend in Brookline. Her name is Dinah. She lives 6 blocks from your apartment on her sister's couch this month because she's between places. I called her. She's already on her way." "Callum, she's going to go into your apartment for you. She has a key she doesn't have. You're going to tell her where the code is. She's going to come out the back with it and give it to you in the alley. 5 minutes, maybe less. You don't go upstairs, Liam. You don't go into that building. Anybody watching that building sees you walk in, they know where you've been, which means they know roughly where your daughter is tonight. That's not a line we cross. Liam's knuckles had gone white again. He made himself breathe. Your friend. Yes. Is going into my apartment. Yes. If she gets caught in there, she's 72 years old, Liam, and she used to work for the State Department. She's not going to get caught. She is very good at being a grandmother who's lost her glasses, who thought this was her nephew's place, who is so sorry. And could she use the bathroom? And oh my, is that a radiator? Goodness, trust me on this one thing. Okay, she'll bring you the coat, then you drive to Priya. Priya's address I'm texting to this phone now. Don't save it. Memorize it. Delete the text. Callum. Yeah. Why are you doing this? Not Arya. You. You were supposed to just slip her out. You didn't have to keep helping us after. A long pause. Because the last time I saw my sister scared like she was when I opened that porch door tonight, she was 9 years old, Callum said, and I was 13. And a man in my father's house had said something to her in a hallway that I did not hear, but that changed her face. And I didn't do anything about it. I didn't even ask. And I have had 22 years to think about that moment and about what kind of brother I was going to be if I ever got another chance. So that's why. Liam did not have anything to say to that. He drove. A sign went past. Harlan's End, 42. Callum? Yeah. Tell Arya I'm close. I will. Tell her He paused. Just tell her I'm close. Okay? Well, click. He made it to Harlan's End at 2:52 in the morning. The city was quiet in the way cities get at 3, which is not silent, but is a different kind of noise, slower, further away. He drove past his own block without turning onto it. He could see, even from one street over, that there was a car parked across from his stoop that had not been there that morning. A dark sedan, not the same one, but close enough that the difference didn't matter. He did not slow down. He drove 2 more blocks and pulled up in front of Pappy's. Pappy's was open. Pappy's was always open. He went inside. The woman behind the counter, who he did not know, nodded at him the way she nodded at everyone. He took the booth by the kitchen. He ordered black coffee. His hands, now that he had stopped moving, had started to shake. At 3:06, a woman in a blue raincoat came through the door. Short gray hair, cut square at the jaw. She looked like every librarian he had ever had. She looked around the diner as if deciding, scanned past him, came back to him, and smiled the small, vague smile of a stranger. Is this seat taken? No, ma'am. She sat. She ordered tea. She put a folded newspaper on the table between them. The radiator by the kitchen window? Yeah, on the left, as you're facing it from the door. There's a khaki trench coat. Inside pocket, left side if you're wearing it, behind a torn seam. There's a piece of stiff cardboard she glued a small drive behind, the small one, not the bigger one. Understood. Ma'am. Dinah, please. Dinah, if anybody is in there, I'll ask them for the bathroom and I'll leave. I'm not going to do anything clever, young man. I'm going to get a coat off a radiator. Okay, your front door. Spare key is taped to the underside of the mailbox in the lobby. It's been there 4 years. If it's gone, somebody already went in. I'll check first. Okay. She stood up. She left the tea on the table, steaming. She walked out. Liam watched her through the window until she turned the corner. The next 11 minutes were the longest of his life. Longer than the 40 minutes of the train ride that morning. Longer than the moment standing in the bedroom doorway 3 years ago when he'd come home and found his wife not breathing. At 3:17, Dinah came back through the door of the diner. She had a folded khaki coat over her arm, the way someone carries a raincoat in a department store. She sat down across from him. She set the coat on the seat beside her casually, like it was hers. Key was still there, she said. Apartment was empty. Somebody had been there, though. Not long. 20 minutes, maybe, 40 at most. Kitchen drawer was open. Sock drawer in the bedroom was open. Your fridge was open. They looked. They did not find the coat because the coat was hanging on a radiator in a kitchen and they were looking for a hiding place. Sometimes people who look for hiding places forget to look at what's sitting out. They found the bigger drive, I think. There was a pile of loose things on your kitchen table that had not been there before. They took what they thought was the prize. They left. He closed his eyes. He opened them. Is the coat? Is the lining intact? Yes. I checked in the stairwell. The small thing is still behind the cardboard. Thank you. You can thank me by drinking your coffee and getting back in your car. I'm going to sit here for 45 minutes and read the paper, and then I'm going to walk home a different way, and then I'm going to go to bed. I don't know you. I don't know your friends. Someone I'll say hello to at a birthday party next spring asked me for a favor, and I did the favor, and that is the whole of what I did tonight. Am I clear? Yes, ma'am. Dinah. Dinah. Good boy. Go. He left a 20 on the table for a $4 coffee. He picked up the coat. He walked out of the diner and got in the Buick and drove, not toward his apartment, but away from it, south and west, toward an address in an older part of the city. Callum had texted him and he had memorized an address above a bookstore that was closed at this hour, but had a side door with a buzzer labeled simply with the letter K. He parked a block away. He walked. The coat was heavier than a coat should be, which was not the drive, but the weight of what the coat was. He pressed the buzzer. A woman's voice, husky with sleep. Who is this? My name is Liam Carter. You don't know me. A man named Callum and a woman named Arya told me to come to you. They said you'd know what I have. A long silence. Top of the stairs, the voice said. Door on the left. Don't ring. Walk up. A click. The door unlatched. He pushed it open and stepped inside. Priya Kohli was small and sharp-featured, in her late 30s, wearing sweatpants and a cardigan and glasses, with her hair twisted up in a clip. She led him into an apartment that was mostly books, stacked in columns, lined along the walls, piled on every horizontal surface except a single clear spot on a kitchen table. Where a laptop was open and a mug of something steamed, she did not offer him a seat. She stood in the middle of the room with her arms crossed. Show me. He took out his pocket knife. He laid the coat on her kitchen table. He found the loose thread along the inside pocket. He pulled the cardboard free. He peeled the drive off the back of it and set it in her palm. Small one, he said. There was a bigger one. They took the bigger one. Arya set it up as a decoy. The real thing is in your hand. Priya looked at the drive. She looked at him. She had a reporter's face, which is to say a face that has trained itself to give nothing. Who are you to them? I'm the guy who opened a door. She studied him a moment longer. Then she nodded, once, and turned to her laptop. She sat down. She did not ask him to leave, but she also did not ask him to stay, and he understood that this was the end of his part. He picked up the coat. He folded it over his arm. He walked to her door. Mr. Carter? He turned. She was looking at him with something that was not a reporter's face, something underneath it. 72 hours, she said. Tell your people 72 hours. After that, this story prints, and the Mercer family becomes a problem the whole city has to deal with, and your people are safer than they have ever been in their lives. You understand? I understand. Drive carefully. He nodded. He went down the stairs. He walked back to the Buick. He sat in it for 1 full minute before he turned the key, because his body would not yet do the thing he needed it to do. He put his hand flat on the passenger seat where the coat sat, and he thought about a cabin 230 miles north, and a daughter asleep in a loft, and a woman at a kitchen table, and a man who had kept a secret for 4 years so that his sister could have a door to walk through. Then he turned the key. The Buick caught on the first try. He pulled away from the curb and drove west, with his headlights on, into a morning that was, for the first time in a long time, beginning to get lighter ahead of him instead of behind. The drive back was the longest 4 hours of his life, and also strangely the easiest, because for the first time since the buzzer had rung in his apartment at 9 the night before, he was driving towards something instead of away from it. The sun came up somewhere in the second hour, pale and slow over the pine ridges, and he drove into it with his eyes stinging and his hands loose on the wheel and the coat folded on the seat beside him like a sleeping animal. He reached the cabin at 9:14. Callum was on the porch before the Buick had fully stopped. Arya came out a second behind him, still in the borrowed sweats, her hair pulled back in a knot that had slipped in her sleep. She walked down the porch steps barefoot and across the cold dirt, and she got to the driver's door before he had the keys out of the ignition. "It's done," he said through the glass. She opened the door. She did not hug him. She looked at him for a long second, taking inventory of his face the way she'd taken inventory the night she first walked in, And whatever she was looking for, she found, because she exhaled in a way he had not yet heard from her, and her whole face broke open and rearranged itself into something younger. Priya has it. Yeah. And the decoy. They took it. They think they have the prize. She put her hand against the side of his jaw, just for a second. She did not say thank you. She had promised him she would stop. He saw it in her eyes anyway. Noah came to the screen door behind Callum, Mr. Button under her arm, her hair wild on one side from the pillow. She looked at her father, and her whole body did the small animal thing of deciding whether she was allowed to run. He opened his arms. She ran. He caught her on the porch steps. Daddy. Bug. You were gone a long time. Yeah, I was. Callum made pancakes. Only 2 of them burned. I heard that, Callum called. I'm just being honest, Noah said, into Liam's shoulder. They ate the pancakes. They drank coffee that Callum had made too strong on purpose because he said none of them deserved good coffee after the night they'd had. Arya laughed at that. A small, tired laugh, but real. And Liam watched her from across the table and understood that whatever he had felt in his chest the night she walked into his kitchen had not been a mistake. And also that now was not the time for it, and maybe not ever. And that was all right. They left in separate cars at 11. Callum drove the gray hatchback west with Arya in the passenger seat and everything she owned in 2 duffels in the back. Liam drove the Buick east with Noah in her booster and Mr. Button in his seatbelt next to her. Before they pulled away, Arya came to his window one more time. Liam. Yeah. If Priya does her job, if this works, it's going to be in the papers for a while. My name, his name, all of it. I know. I don't know when I can... She stopped. She started again. I don't know when it's going to be safe. For me to come back, or to call. I know. A year, maybe 2. Okay. I don't want you to wait. He looked at her. Arya, he said, don't tell me what to do. She laughed. She put her forehead against the doorframe for 1 second. Then she stepped back. Take care of her, she said. That kid. She is. You have something there, Liam. Don't forget what you have. I won't. Okay. She walked to the hatchback. She got in. Callum gave him a nod through the windshield. A long nod. A nod that said things that would never be said out loud. And the hatchback pulled out of the clearing and onto the dirt road and was gone. Priya Kohli printed 76 hours later. The story was on the front page of the Harlan End Ledger, and by that afternoon it was in 3 national wires. The headline was not dramatic. Priya was too good for that. It was 4 plain words above a photograph of a hospital sign, and the 4 words unspooled into a 7,000-word piece that walked a reader through 19 years of a charitable foundation, 14% of a budget, a second entity, a wedding plan for September, and a daughter who had spent 4 years gathering photographs one careful night at a time. Corwin Mercer was indicted on a Tuesday in April. It was not the end of him. Men like Corwin Mercer do not end the way the rest of the world would like them to end. Not cleanly, not in a single courtroom. But it was the beginning of the end, and the hospital wing got funded, and the wedding did not happen. And a woman named Priya Kohli won an award Liam could not pronounce correctly when Mrs. Ortega read it to him from the newspaper over the radiator that had held the coat. Liam went back to work. Not to the loading dock. His brother came through on the November rent and then some, and Liam took a job driving a delivery truck for a bakery that paid less but let him be home by 4 every day. He picked Noah up from school himself. He made dinner with her standing on a step stool beside him at the counter, cracking eggs and getting shell in them and not caring. He slept with his bedroom door open. He did not check his passports in the sock drawer anymore. He stopped checking a lot of things. He thought about Arya every day for the first 6 months. Then he thought about her most days. Then eventually, he thought about her the way you think about a person who changed the shape of a room you still live in, present in the architecture, not in the furniture. A postcard came 14 months after she left. Plain front. A picture of a mountain he did not recognize. On the back, in handwriting he had only seen once before, on a scrap of junk mail with a brother's phone number on it. Still here, still me. Thinking of the bug. Thinking of you. No return address. He did not expect one. He put it on the refrigerator under a magnet shaped like a pineapple that Noah had chosen at a yard sale for $0.25, and he left it there. Years later, when Noah was 9, a woman rang his buzzer on a Sunday afternoon. Nothing dramatic, nothing like the first time. She was wearing a red jacket, and she was holding a paper bag from a bakery, and she was a little older, a little less hollow, and when he buzzed her up, he saw in the hallway mirror that he was smiling in a way he had forgotten his face could do. She did not stay. Not that day. She stayed for lunch. She met Noah, who studied her for 45 seconds with a tilted head and then said, "You look like your postcard," and went back to her coloring. Arya stayed for lunch and for a walk by the river and for a cup of coffee after, and at the end of the afternoon, Liam walked her to the subway, and she said, "Can I come back next weekend?" And he said, "Yeah." And that was how it started. Not with a rescue, not with a chase through the rain, but with a walk and a cup of coffee and a child's calm appraisal. They took years, both of them, by then, knew that love that rushed was love that bled. They took years on purpose. She got her own apartment in the neighborhood. She got her own job, a real one, in a field she'd never been allowed near growing up. She made her own friends. He stayed the man he had become over those years alone with his daughter. Steadier, quieter. A man who could walk into a room and not need it to do anything for him. And one afternoon in a kitchen not so different from the one where she had first sat across from him, shaking in his old hoodie, she said, without any preamble, "I'd like to stay tonight and not leave in the morning." And he said, "Okay." And that was all of it, the whole turning of the thing, said with the same two-word honesty that had gotten them through every doorway between then and now. Noah grew up. Mr. Button sat on a shelf. The apartment got a little bigger eventually, a unit on the first floor with a real kitchen and a small yard where Noah grew tomatoes badly and was fiercely proud of them. Mrs. Ortega lived to 86 and died in her sleep on a Tuesday afternoon, holding a mug of tea Arya had brought her 20 minutes before. Callum came to visit every Christmas and brought terrible presents and made everyone laugh. Priya Kohli wrote 2 books and mentioned Liam in neither of them, which he appreciated more than anything she could have said. If there is a lesson in any of it, and Liam, who distrusted lessons the way he distrusted most things that arrived with a bow on them, would not have used that word, it is maybe only this, that a life can be built quietly out of the 2 or 3 moments when you did not do the careful thing. A door opened in the rain. A hand offered across a kitchen table. A car turned around when it could have kept going. He had spent 2.5 years, before any of it, believing that his life had already been written, that all the important pages had been turned, that what remained was the slow business of getting through the back of the book. He had been wrong. He had been so completely wrong that now, years later, he could not even remember how he had managed to believe it. Because the truth, the one Arya had taught him, the one he had taught her back, the one a 6-year-old with jam on her chin had taught them both by handing over a borrowed purple crayon on the worst day of their lives. The truth was that the greatest risk in a person's life is not losing everything. It is being given a second chance to love and refusing it out of fear. He did not refuse. Neither did she. And on a quiet Tuesday evening, 20 years after a young woman had knocked soaking wet on a stranger's door with nowhere else to go, a grown Noah Carter walked her father down the aisle of a small courthouse to a woman in a navy dress waiting with her brother at her side, and the whole thing took 11 minutes and cost $57. And nobody who was there ever forgot it, though none of them, not one, would have been able to tell you later what anyone had actually said. Because some stories end the way they began, with a door, with a hand, with a choice, and with the simple, stubborn human decision to walk through.